It's really pretty.
Look at that, baby. That's beautiful.
A lot of diamonds there.
Man, that's beautiful right there. Look at that. So that's coming up tomorrow, and we'll throw it.
You're owning me now. I'm just hanging on every single thing you say.
I know.
And look, it's like trying to follow the Pharisees' law. I mean, once they start on you, once they start on you, every move you make is critiqued.
I mean, I'm even like leaning in.
I know. Moultrie Mobile tomorrow too with another M99i camera. So tomorrow's big.
Yeah,
and we'll end the 23 years. As a matter of fact, today, and I hate it because Helmsy has a coaching conflict, and there really was no way around it. Today, a little show hunt. The guys in the show, we had our little Christmas party this year with our families, and today we're going to hunt a little bit.
Yeah, try to get out in the woods.
I'm kind of looking forward to that. So we'll try to get some pics and all that and enjoy that. It's going to be a little chilly where we live, which is good. Yeah, because I remember last year on one of the show hunts, it was so hot we were sitting out there with no shirts on.
Yeah, I remember you doing that, Greg.
Yeah, I really did. It was like a sauna.
Yeah, I was down at the Gar Hole, and I was sitting outside. It was a little chilly for me. I was outside in it.
Well, the good news is
I'm going to show Speedy a Gar Hole.
Well, that's listen. Here's what I was going to say. You're talking about bad strategy. So here's a guy that claims he was put in the Gar Hole, and he's making fun and just attacking the guy who's going to put him out again today.
I
mean, that didn't make any sense.
It's good. I'm not the only one.
Right, because
I guess we're all going to a Gar Hole then.
I'm glad to know that wherever you go, at least I know that's one place the deer aren't coming, so I didn't make them blind.
Hey, look, you think I'm expecting to shoot anything today? I'm just going to be with y'all.
Yeah, that's it.
Speedy was on the hottest spot last year.
Right. The funniest thing,
when other groups are in, they fight for that.
Look, we all lay out our places the lot we like it. I appreciate you. I'm humbled by how much you think of me because where you put me last year, I literally saw my first deer and I went, oh man, he's got dogs on the property, and all of a sudden I get the box. I'm like, wait a minute, that's a deer. How far away am I? And I was like, I was.
Well, Rick, you got the big gun. I figured you'd like to reach out there and get them.
All I thought to myself is, well, Bubba thinks a lot of my long shooting ability here. But I said, oh man, he's got wild dogs. Oh wait a minute, that's a deer.
But it's like a golf shot. It says 300, but it's downhill, so it plays 275.
Right. Okay. It's great. I love every minute of it, and it's a lot of fun. Get spend time together. I had that old feeling last night. Hey man, I'm going to hunt tomorrow.
No, I know.
I love that feeling.
How about this is the worst thing you want to hear, too, as a dad that's going hunting. One of my kids woke up with a 101-degree temperature.
See, you always want to get out. At least we're not going for a weekend. We're going for one afternoon. Yeah. But, yeah, anytime you're heading off one of those where you're going to stay a while, and all of a sudden, and everybody, you think, okay, everybody at the house is good. Everything's great. It's all wonderful. And all of a sudden you get that first text. On the day you're leaving, hey, so-and-so got upset.
Oh, boy. Man, it's the youngest, too, the boss. So you know how that goes.
Yeah, The kids today, for me, all take their last final. Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you, Lord.
Yep, same at the house.
And I mean, really, they've been just buried up in their room studying. I mean, it's just been. I'm so glad I'm not in school. So glad I'm not in school.
I don't know about a final cover the whole year. I'm more of a fan of a lot of little tests along the way.
Me too. How dare a school actually try to figure out if my kids comprehended any of it? You know what I mean? I'm just like, come on, man. I mean,
we assign everybody a number.
You're right. Come on. I'm not gonna live my life being a test score.
That's right. You might. If everybody else is.
No.
Rick and Bubba. It always seemed like no big deal at the time. But son, you better be listening when I tell you don't drink and drive. 'Cause we'll be out there waiting around each hill and dale. And if you're drinking and driving, we'll haul your butt to jail. Hey, hear me say, from Morristown to Monterey, and everywhere in between, play smart. You know what I mean?
Paid for by the Governor's Highway Safety Office.
Since 1941, serving the public interest. WJZM Radio, Clarksville, Tennessee.
They said it wasn't a gateway drug. My homie was taking subs and he ain't wake up the whole while. These billionaires, they caked up, paying up Congress, so we take their drugs. Murderers who will never face the judge. And we dancing to a song about a bass gone numb. But I seen homies turn gray, noses draining blood. I could have been gone, our 30s faded in that tub. That's Prince, Michael and Whitney, that's Amy Ledger and Pimp C, that's Yams, that's DJ A.M. I'm making the killing. Now it's getting attention cause Sarah, Katie, and Billy. But this been going on from Seattle out to South Philly. It just moved about the city and it spread out to the burbs. Now it's everybody's problem, got a nation on the verge. Take activists off the market, jack the price up on the syrup. But Purdue Farmers about to move that work.
The drug dealer was a doctor. Had the plug from Big Pharma. He said that he would heal me, but he only gave me problems. My drug dealer was a doctor. Had the plug from Big Pharma. I think he trying to kill me. He tried to kill me for $1.
And these devils, they keep on talking to me. They screaming, open the bottle. I wanna be at peace. My hand is gripping that throttle. I'm running out of speed. Try to close my eyes, but I just keep on sweating through these sheets. For a horseman, they won't let me forget. I wanna forge a prescription, cause doctor, I need some more of it. When morphine and heroin is more of your budget. I said I never use a needle, but short. I'm caught up, I'm on one, I'm nauseous. No options, exhausted. This is not what I started. Walking carcass, I lost everything I wanted. My blinds drawn, too gone to leave this apart.
My drug dealer was a doctor. Had the plug from Big Pharma. He said that he would heal me, but he only gave me problems. My drug dealer was a doctor. Had the plug from Big Pharma. I think he trying to kill me. Tried to kill me for $1.
Re-up, that certificate signed the prenup. Ain't no coming back from this Percocet activist, Ambien, Adderall, Xanax binge. Best friends with the thing that's killing me. Enemies with my best friend, there's no healing me. Refilling these. They say it's death, institutions and DOC. So God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Courage to change the things I can. And the wisdom to know the difference. The wisdom to know the difference.
Good Saturday morning. It is 9:03. This is True Health Talk with the Wild Doc. And the man in the chair this morning is Dr. Dale Brown. Good morning, sir.
Thank you, John, as always.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody, we're live on Facebook, and we are live in the radio show or studio today. So you can call into the radio show at 645-6414. I have a guest with me today, Andrew Fox. Quite foxy, brother. You know,
thank you.
I like the beard. Yes, sir. So we're going to be talking about, the way I like to put it is we have another pharmaceutical thug out there for us. Folks, another government organization doing exactly what their title means. Drug Enforcement Agency, the DEA. They are enforcing drugs upon the American people, basically trying to withstand or take away our right to be able to grow our own medicine.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to be talking about that, the recent plug or attempt by the DEA to slow the flow of CBD oil.
Very dangerous.
I know, it's horrible. We were just talking this morning about caffeine killing more people than the DEA's class Schedule 1 drug.
Yes, sir.
They think. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that. We're going to talk about the opiate epidemic. Andrew has an amazing story. This man right here will go to the ends of the earth for his wife, or at least all the way to California, right?
Same thing.
Same thing. That's the end of the earth right there. So we're going to be talking about that. If you have any questions, you can chime in on Facebook. Facebook Live, everybody over there on the Mevo. Love that little camera. So we'll be talking about that. Ask your questions, especially if you have anybody in your family that are looking for ways to overcome an opiate addiction. And I know that we can't say that CBD or chiropractic care or anything could treat an opiate addiction.
No medicinal value.
No medicinal value, except for when the research says there's major medicinal value.
The National Cancer Institute doesn't exactly agree with the FDA and DEA.
What do they say about it? Tell me.
It's proven to kill cancer cells.
Oh, yeah. I've seen some studies on that, and that's what's so... Last week I told you I was going to talk a little about the 21st Century Cures Act and how that's literally just completely eroding the FDA's capability, which I laughed because the FDA has never really had a major capability of being able to prevent dangerous medications or drugs or big pharma from causing great harm. I mean, Vioxx was a pain medication that they admit killed around 83,000. Now, if you look back to the very year Vioxx came on the market, we had an uptick within the Journal of Hypertension, American Heart Association, all their statistics. They can't account for why there had been roughly a 50,000 number, a 50,000 more people that very year that Vioxx came on the market, increase in cardiovascular mortality rate. So the very year Vioxx comes on the market, for which now we know caused a significant increased risk and rate of cardiovascular events, for which they admitted 83,000 people they killed by illegally committing fraud, basically, and telling the FDA, hey, our drug's safe. Please approve this for us. And they did that. And in the very year it came off the market, what was the number that we saw a decline in?
It's a miracle.
It was like 50,000. It was unbelievable. And it was on the market for 10 years. Do the math on that. It was about 500,000 people died as a result of a drug company lying to our FDA, and the FDA basically just sitting back and saying, okay, so you say your drug's safe, and you did your research on it, so as long as you think it's safe, as long as your data that you're handing us says it's safe, rubber stamp, there you go, it's approved. Good.
And the whole point of the FDA was really to slow things to market and to add warning labels. I mean, they didn't really prevent any of these dangerous pharmaceuticals getting to consumers.
Since we're talking a little bit about the FDA, have you seen the research misconduct? This is the British Medical Journal. British Medical Journal or JAMA? JAMA, I'm sorry. Journal of American Medical Association Internal Medicine. This was published in...
I hope you can tell me about it in a British accent.
Well, it's not British Medical Journal. It's Journal of American Medical Association. I made a mistake. The CDC has one about how the Centers for Disease Control is actually protecting the private good, not the public's good.
Absolutely.
And that's British Medical Journal. If I talk about that one, I'll try and do a British accent. I have to do an American accent with this one. What would that be?
Straight North Carolina.
There you go. So, research misconduct identified by the Food and Drug Administration, out of sight, out of mind, out of peer-reviewed literature, according to the Journal of American Medical Association. They took 57 published clinical trials, and this is what we want to do in this show, is basically show you how the pharmaceutical industry has flat out bought off our government, our FDA, our CDC, and our DEA, and they're trying to prevent the American people from being able to get their hands on alternatives that are like the American Cancer Society saying that CBD oil is proven to be effective against cancer cells and kill cancer cells. But the FDA is not going to approve that. The DEA is trying to make it harder for people to get their hands on that miracle medicinal.
Absolutely. It's a new drug according to the FDA.
But it hasn't been approved by the FDA, so how could it be a drug? I'm just kidding.
It's around before the FDA. How would it be new?
Yep. So here's what the FDA did. They did their job, right? No, not exactly. The FDA inspection of trial sites and found significant evidence of one or more of the following problems. Submission of false information. That was in 22 of the trials they looked at out of the 57 trials, okay? So that would be 39%. Problems with adverse reporting, 14 trials. Protocol violations, which is research fraud. You go outside your protocols, then you're basically trying to data dive for different results so that you can say, hey, look, it was safe, or hey, look, it was effective. Problems with adverse reporting, 14 trials. Protocol violations, 42. Inaccurate record keeping, 35 trials. Failure to protect the safety of patients or other issues with oversight or informed consent, 30 of those trials. Only 3 of the 78 publications, so from the 57 clinical trials that they investigated, came 78 publications. 3 of those 78, 4%, that resulted from the trials in which the FDA found significant violations mentioned the objectionable conditions or practices found during the inspection. No corrections, no retractions, and no expressions of concern or other comments acknowledging the key issues identified by the Food and Drug Administration were in the subsequent publications. So basically, the FDA finds problems, says, hey, you committed fraud. That's illegitimate research. What should the FDA do then, you think?
What they normally do is put a black label on it.
So they do the black box warnings, right?
Black box warning.
They didn't do anything. Like, you would think they would go out and do their job and be like, hey, I know you're prescribing it. Go to every single medical physician and say, I know you're prescribing this drug that came from this clinical trial right here. Well, I want to make sure that you realize that this clinical trial, the researcher actually committed murder.
And the bad part is, these aren't new groundbreaking drugs.
No.
They'll take the same old drug that doesn't work, tweak the compound, put it back out for profit.
That's what they did with the heartburn medication. Prilosec and the Nexium is the next one. And all they did was there's 2 molecules. They were mirror images. One was an active component, one was not. So they just filtered out. The other one received patent again on it, and were able to sell it at high prices for another.
And all these physicians told their patients this, I'm sure.
It's the best one. It's even better. It's more potent. It's stronger. Nah, not exactly. So the reason I said murder was because that actually happened in one clinical trial. A clinical trial in which the FDA found out that a researcher was hiding patients' weakened kidney and liver function. So they had poor kidney and liver function as a cancer clinical trial in which they were taking 2 chemotherapy medications regimens and putting them against each other. And what they would do, this researcher was basically hiding that these people were weak, putting them into this group over here, and then administering the chemotherapy, which killed a patient and weakened a significant number of them, and thus made that group look really bad. Like that group, okay, that drug is bad now. Over here, we've got this really good drug because, wait, you committed murder to make this one look good. Wouldn't you think the FDA would do its job and go out to the American physicians and the oncologists? Every oncologist, I would hope, has knowledge of this right now, and thus not prescribing the drug that was brought to market or promoted by murder. But that's not what the FDA has done.
And one of the worst part about those trials is, they'll say that they tested the test results, the negative side effects, tested very minute amounts for a short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Testing it for a week isn't really testing it.
No. You're talking about how they get drugs to market and say they're safe. Like, here's our safety study. Never been studied for mutagenic or carcinogenic properties. Oh, that's on the vaccine inserts. Anyways, don't get me started there. What's hilarious is I had a patient who was vaccine injured, and it happened several weeks later that she started to have these autoimmune type conditions. Doctors wanted to say, oh, that's you couldn't have had it within that timeline because it takes years before that type of stuff comes about from vaccines. And then I look at the safety data on the hepatitis B vaccine. They studied it for 4 days after administration. 4 days. If it didn't happen within 4 days, it was not the vaccine, according to the research.
What about on the 5th day?
And then if you take flu vaccine research, they would not include anyone who got sick or ill or had complications within the first 7 days after administration, because they said that would be something that was done or going to affect the person prior to. Thus, it's coincidence, and it was just all coincidence in the first 7 days after administration. After 7 days till 30 days, they said maybe it would be the vaccine. Logic, right? Very logical. We have one vaccine that could only cause you to have problems within the first 4 days. Meanwhile, we have another vaccine that could not cause you to have any problems within the first 7 days. But it could cause you to have problems between the 7th day and the 30th day, and that's it. Anything on the 31st day? No, sorry, that's not the vaccine. Anyways, we're going into research. Tell me a little bit about what you do. I want to hear your story. I want to hear it firsthand. Like, tell me what you did, what you had to go through, what your wife was dealing with. Because I read the articles here in the local newspaper, and I just want people out there to realize the depth that you had to go to find something safe and effective for your wife's condition.
Yes, sir. All due to a tragedy down in Florida a couple years ago on vacation when my daughter when my wife and 2-year-old got ran over by a driver.
Oh my gosh.
And we got her back here and her back was destroyed. She needs pins, cages. So the obvious answer to terrible pain is Valium, Lortabs, Oxycontin. They're not working strong enough. Let's do higher milligrams and higher milligrams. We got up to 30 milligrams Oxycontin a day, and she's incapacitated. Let me plan going to get groceries around taking drugs. Let me plan getting my kids from school around drugs.
Yeah.
So started flying out to Colorado, loading up a rental car with a few different cannabis products and bringing them back. No one is worried about cannabis or CBD to get high.
Yeah. To explain the differences there real quick then. Because that way listeners out there aren't thinking like, oh, so he went out to Colorado to get the marijuana and bring it back so that she would be...
we can get concentrates. We can do oils that have zero psychoactive
So
effects.
zero THC in it, right? Or minimums. So minimum that does not have the psychological or psychoactive effect, right?
Yes, sir, exactly. And you can stay below 0.3% and have zero mental effects on your body. First thing we did try was high THC, low cannabidiol oils, and she was high, she felt good, but her back still killed her.
Yeah.
So luckily on the second trip out, remind you I'm bringing drugs on 16-hour drives in the back of a car thinking I'm going to be in federal prison in Kansas.
Yeah. But I mean, you could go down the street to, and just think about this, folks. I've got an article up here, December 8th, how now heroin deaths surpass gun homicides for the first time. CDC data shows. Washington Post, December 8th, 2016. Up to 33,092 opiate and heroin deaths in 2015. All right. Roughly 16,000. They're saying a range from 16,000 up to 20,000 on opiate deaths per year. It's been going on for years now. They're okay with your wife taking those.
Absolutely.
And upping her milligrams to the point where she's having a psychoactive effect.
Absolutely.
She's doped up. And then because you went out and got a plant that they can grow, it's legal there, you could grow in your backyard, which now you can grow CBD. Hemp, which again, we're not talking about getting high and having that mental effect to where it separates your brain from reality. We're talking about using something that has a high antioxidant effect, a significant anti-inflammatory effect, an effect that helps nerve cells regrow, helps nerve cells regenerate, because a lot of times, many times pain comes from massive neurogenic inflammation for which the myelin sheath is deteriorating, the body can't heal, it's got exposed nerve roots at the ends of the nerves, and then just causes massive pain. This stuff helps heal that process, helps and assists your body in the healing. Meanwhile, all an opioid does is block the brain or try and hit the brain enough to dull your sensations of what else is going on. It's separating your brain from reality. This stuff is assisting your body in healing.
I mean, you have an endocannabinoid system for our body.
Yeah.
Cannabinoid. Cannabis. It's amazing.
Yep. I mean, it's kind of like what they're doing right now with Kratom. We talked a little bit about that before the show, and the DEA trying to make Kratom, which give you another example of how the CDC protects the private good, is the reason the DEA and now the CDC and other organizations, medical communities, are trying to remove the ability for people to get leaves, okay, Kratom. So the reason they want to do this is because from 2000 to 2010, the amount of calls to poison control went from 26 to 246 in 1 year, poison control, with an estimated in 2009 of 40 million people using Kratom. And that's 246 calls to poison control. And no one died. according to the data the CDC presents. No serious adverse reactions. Now, I read about one serious adverse reaction, but the man was actually using kratom to self-medicate because of his serious back pain, and he didn't want to take the OxyContin narcotics, so he was self-medicating, and then they prescribed him another medical drug, a pharmaceutical, and when he took the pharmaceutical had a reaction. They took him off of kratom, put him on like 3 or 4 other pharmaceutical pain relievers, so now he's on 5 medications, and they called that a success. And then they used as a case study but they did it. The researchers in that research study actually admitted that, it wasn't the kratom, but because kratom's not part of our medical establishment to get people on drugs, and the DEA wishes to enforce medications on people, they decided, okay, we're not going to use kratom and just take him off this drug that caused the reaction. We're going to take him off of kratom, keep him on our pharmaceutical, and then we're going to put him on 3 to 4 others.
And you should have seen my wife's withdrawal from the OxyContin alone. It was terrible. I get phone calls daily where people are interested in the CBD. Will it help with their withdrawals?
Yeah.
No. Unfortunately, withdrawals are terrible, but the kratom, it could possibly replace methadone.
Wow. And that's where it had less withdrawal symptoms, is what they said about kratom. They had that in the research study. He had far less withdrawal symptoms, those types of things. It was, and again, we can't grow it around here. It grows more in tropical regions. But, still, it's something that, we were talking beforehand about, what God said was good here on earth.
Absolutely.
We just need to know how to use it. I always ask people when they're, whether it's medications or any type of medical procedure, I'm like, did God say, I provided you with everything you need? Did he say that back then and now? Or did he say it back then? And nowadays, we need more of what man can create in terms of a chemical from a laboratory.
Did you see the main withdrawal symptom from kratom? Pretty serious, runny nose.
I hate a runny nose. Especially when it's a toddler and they're, and they always want to wipe it on you and everything. I got 2.5-year-old and a 3-year-old right now. You like my busted eye? My kid jumped on the back of my head. He's like playing WWE style and jumps on the back of my head, and I was taking a drink and boom, hit my eye on the edge of the glass.
You look like a good dad on Facebook that's smiling about it.
I know. I was like, look at this kid. And he's like, yeah, look what I did to daddy.
My son's in ninja training.
I wonder if I could have got opiates if I went into the doctor and said, this really hurts. Give me some opiates. I could have gone and sold them on the street for like $40-$50, a pop.
Here in Clarksville, a prescription for an ear infection is 30 Lortabs.
That's right. You got an ear infection, which they didn't prescribe you antibiotics, huh?
I asked for them.
You're not supposed to give antibiotics, you know that, because you get reoccurring ear infections more frequently. And according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, children should not receive antibiotics for ear infection. They said that back in the 90s. 100%, they're like, this is not what we should be doing. We're making children have more reoccurring ear infections because when you destroy all the bacteria, you lay a foundation for bad bacteria to grow at accelerated rates. And they've shown now, according to Harvard research, that you cannot kill all the bad bacteria with any level concentration of antibiotic. Up to 1,000 times the concentration, there's still strains of the very bacteria that was killed or decreased from the lower dose, like 0.1 concentration of that antibiotic was killed off, and then they had strains just keep growing.
That sounds like a good business model.
It is, actually. It's the best business model is medicine, because if you want to make millions and millions of dollars and cause devastation to human life, go into medicine. Now, there are a lot of medical physicians, don't get me wrong here, that do the right thing by their patients. But if you wanted to do this other end of the spectrum and really just make a lot of money and cause a lot of heartache and harm, definitely go into the pain-based clinic where you just give out narcotics.
Oh, exactly. And I don't think we're beating up every doctor. I've met some of the most amazing physicians. I've yet to have any pain clinics call and want to talk to me.
No?
No.
Really? They don't want to carry your...
I guess not.
Non-medicinal herb or tincture? No?
Not so far. 931-302-2241. Call us. We would love to talk to you.
There you go. Yeah, make sure that you give your information if you wish to let the public and people out there know you carry CBD products that are legal.
Absolutely legal.
Manufactured and bottled and packaged legally. I mean, and that's the thing is people think cannabis, when you say cannabis, it's like dogs. Mm-hmm. There's species and there's genus. Now, there are dogs out there that you may not want to come in contact with until they're domesticated, but then you've got these poodles that are nice, fluffy animals, and they can really help somebody with depression and anxiety and, just have around the house.
A little different than a jackal.
Exactly. So, I mean, there's a major difference there.
Do you think doctors don't know?
Yeah, I really do. Talking about different, because I pull tons of research all the time, and I have these discussions. I play these videos in my office, and I have medical physicians that are always asking me for the research, and they're like, "I didn't hear about that. Well, can I use that in my practice? That's awesome." They start talking. I've got friends who are pharmacists here in the community that actually they own a individuals pharmacy. It's not the big chain pharmacies, so it may be different for them. But they help coach their patients on supplementation and nutrition. They'll give them little tips here and there, and they'll sit down with them for 30 minutes at the individual coming in for cardiovascular medications or pain meds or anything. They'll help them realize there's a safer way. You know what they say is, because people will be like, well, you're harming your bottom dollar. You're hurting the amount of money you're making by getting people off of medications. He's been told that by his colleagues. But yet he's like, I'm doing the right thing, and on top of that, I'm doing the right thing, and there's going to be a small handful of people who are going to do that, and we make plenty of money on the other people that are unwilling to change their dietary lifestyle or go to a chiropractor or do the things necessary to get out of pain and get healthy. So, where are we going with that? Your wife, so you're bringing stuff back, trying some different...
doing multiple drug runs.
Hemp oils,
trying to get my wife
oil.
and my kids' life back.
Yep.
And
what do you mean by your kids? What was just...
They want to play with mommy.
Yeah.
Mommy can't play. Mommy's asleep in the chair. Mom can't go outside right now. She doesn't feel good. And,
all because of the massive amounts of narcotics.
So not only do we have back pain now and an opiate addiction, we also have depression.
Yeah.
From a loss of lifestyle.
Yep. And and we were talking about like doctors, and that's where I hate seeing that happen in many. You look at now your wife being hit by a car. That type of traumatic accident, the spinal surgery may have been necessary, and I wouldn't know. And so there's times and places, typically during major trauma, instability, broken fractures, dislocations, major tears of ligaments around the spine. That's when a surgery, a fusion, is necessitated. But we've had 2 government committees evaluate the effectiveness of spinal fusions for lowering pain and found them 70% of the time the person's worse off, especially when you're dealing with things like degenerative disc disease, arthritis, you're dealing with stenosis, you're dealing with radiating pain from the neck into the arms, carpal tunnel, those types of conditions. People go through spinal fusions for that. When the doctor says, oh, see here, your spine's deteriorating, so just lock it down. Let's not allow it to move. That makes them worse. I mean, movement actually allows our body on a neurological level to be able to cope with pain a whole lot better. So what's a chiropractic adjustment do is it mobilizes the spine in those segments that don't move, thus increasing the brain's ability to regulate the feeling of pain and flush fluid in and out of those joint spaces. So that's a process there versus fuse the spine. People were worse off. Journal of Spine through 2011 stated that they had a 48% increase rate of narcotic use increase in the amount of medications prescribed after the spinal fusions. So, I mean, and we've had 2 government committees say they're not effective, they're harmful for these varying conditions from sciatica to degenerative disc disease, but yet our Society of Surgeons lobbies to our government. We should get into that, probably, lobbying. And
I love it.
They lobby, and then the government committee doesn't even get to do the job they were set out to do, which was, hey, is this effective? Should we continue paying for it?
Wouldn't that be the most depressing job ever? to work for them and actually care about the well-being of people. Because
And that's the
their voice
thing.
is not heard.
They said in one of the committees in 2006, there was 9 neurosurgeons. They voted on a level from 1 to 5. 1 being the, not effective, harmful. 5 being, oh, we should definitely pay for this. This is great. 3 of the surgeons had stock or own patents on the implantable devices and things that they put in the spine, the bolts and screws that can cost $3,500 for a nice little screw that
we bought 6 of those.
And it's so funny because nothing's really that different than one you can buy at the store. But because it's now a medical device, price goes through the roof.
And in the American Cures Act, those physicians won't even have to let you know that they have stock in those companies now.
Yep. The 21st Century Cures Act is now going to allow for the pharmaceutical industry to hire individual physicians to be able to do clinical trials, research, and then they don't have to tell you if you have a condition that they're doing research on. They don't have to tell you they're giving you a experimental drug. Informed consent during studies is now doesn't have to be used.
That's terrifying.
Yes, it is. So how did your wife recover once you started using the CBD? What were some of the changes you observed?
Well, the first 2 to 3 months were terrible, but mainly due to the withdrawal.
Yeah.
Coming off the drugs. So how quick the effect was is really kind of hard to tell. But say month 3, month 4, amazing. She's got her daily life back.
Yes.
She's able to work on the farm. She's giving horseback rides to the kids.
Wow.
And, we're not spending $1 on pharmaceuticals.
Excellent, man. Excellent.
And, she got her brain back.
That's amazing.
I mean, what's it worth to be able to think?
Yeah.
And now we're 10 months narcotic free, and that's after a heavy 1.5 years, like I said,
Wow.
Valium, Loratab, Oxycontin.
So it can be done. I mean, I know a lot of, because, working in the field that I do, a lot of people seek out chiropractic care, my profession, for pain relief, and they're on narcotics. They're on massive amounts of pain medications, and many of them, they'll be in my office in tears because they have that. They didn't want that addiction. They didn't want that physical feeling of withdrawal when they start weaning themselves off their medications, or, they don't desire that. They didn't desire. They wanted help for their pain. They wanted to get out of pain. Pain's a huge motivating factor. People will do a lot of things risky, taking a risky pharmaceutical drug, but, a lot of them feel like they can't do it. So you're saying your wife was capable of going through, obvious support from you and the kids, and a huge objective at the end of that withdrawal. My objective, her objective had to have been, I'm going to get my life back with my kids and my family, be able to have a quality of life, go on vacations again, not be on the couch, go out and play. You guys got a little farm now, you got horses you're talking about, so I'm guessing these things were lifestyle factors before her injury.
That's
and after just that injury just annihilated, and the narcotics annihilated any potential being able to live that life in the future. Had she stayed that route, where would she be today?
How many people go 20 years? They lose 20 years of their life because they can't get off, or they're scared to get off. And
yeah.
We talk to people daily who are dying to get off these drugs.
Yeah.
I know the withdrawals are terrifying, but you got to fight it at some point.
Yep. And through what I've read, and obviously you have a firsthand experience watching your wife go through this, but I have read and heard reports that the CBD did help with some withdrawal symptoms, some of those, but still, coming off an opioid, because you're affecting 2 different areas of the brain, you're not going to have a complete replacement with that, and that's not what you're looking for. You're looking for something. I tell people the way I feel about whether it even be a medicinal herb, wilderness remedy, as I like to call them, things God's allowed to grow wild out in nature. Using those things, I always ask, what's the true underlying cause of that condition? If we can address that, Well, that's the best thing the patient can receive is a correction of the cause. And then from there, if we need to utilize things like CBD or wild medicinals or nutrition things to assist in that healing process, let's use assistive things. And then if there are times when we can't get full correction of cause, now what are the things that are safe, effective, and beneficial to the health? I mean, not just with pain control in your wife's case, there are other major benefits. So it's like prolonging her life at the same time helping her control her pain, right?
Yes, sir. And Congressman Faison from East Tennessee, he had an amazing speech at the Senate saying there's so many wild remedies that have been used for thousands of years. And for some odd reason, the Western societies have decided to overrule them.
Except for like China and Asia. China and Asia, Japan, they use, like I've been talking about, mushrooms a lot. Turkey tail mushrooms, reishi mushrooms, they use these in clinical trials, have been proven to actually boost the immune system so strong that they can use immunotherapy with mushrooms to kill off cancer cells, so that's the only treatment they use. And then they can use it also when they do administer chemotherapy to rebound and help the patient's immune system respond to that and come back to a stronger state so that they don't die of pneumonia. But here in the United States, we don't do those things. And even our FDA, our NIH, we funded, government funding, our taxpayer dollars went to fund the studies on turkey tail mushrooms, the studies on ginseng, and showing increases in survival and longevity. And all the stuff was proven true that Asian countries are using for the treatment of cancer and other things. But it's not received, even though the money came from taxpayers, even though the studies came through avenues in which the FDA knows about and the NIH knows about, those still are not legally able to be prescribed to a cancer patient for the treatment of cancer. And we not use them.
Bayer and Pfizer,
yes,
they must not have the patent on those mushrooms.
No, not yet. What's scary is I've heard that pharmaceutical interests are wanting to lobby to try and take over the cannabis market, in which they can then make synthetic cannabis so that they can patent it and keep like the DEA. And that's why the DEA has become the drug enforcement agency. They're enforcing drugs on the American people, is because they're trying to pass or create laws or suggest that this is a class 1 drug. But when you read through the, it's got to be like strong likelihood of abuse.
With zero medicinal value. And we're not asking for recreational legalization tomorrow.
Yeah.
We want it to go to a Schedule II drug where it can be researched. Wouldn't that be better for the public, for the companies, for everyone? We don't
It'd be huge for local communities, for local industry. It would be an amazing thing, especially, and then eventually being able to be grown in anyone's backyard to medicate themselves, so that we have a true, I say this, because of the way the pharmaceutical companies have been able to lobby to our government with the 21st Century Cures Act and other lobbying efforts to suppress natural cures, wilderness remedies, they've now created a country of dependence on medications. We take anywhere from 65 to 75% of the world's medications. We take 85% of the world's narcotics, pain medications. We only have about 6 to 7% of the world's population. So we have a very small portion of the world's population, yet we consume more drugs than any other nation out there. Places like Germany, they prescribe more herbal remedies. Over 50% of their prescriptions are for herbal remedies. Yet,
what kind of shock is it for generations older than us, though? Because if you think 20 or 30 years ago, no one talked bad about the CDC, the FDA, the DEA. It just didn't exist. There was more of a blind trust in these government agencies that over time, without being watched, have just run rampant.
Yep.
I was talking to my mom yesterday. Did you ever think that you would hate the FDA? You know, it's kind of scary and terrible. But luckily, at least there's knowledge happening.
I mean, that's why I always use that like article on the CDC or the FDA, because it's like most people, when I rant and rave here on the radio or Facebook, it's like people are like, they think I'm after every single medical physician. They think that I think everything in medicine is horrible. I think that things being used for horrible reasons are horrible. I think that the the pharmaceutical companies to lie about the safety of a medication. I give you an example. There's an epilepsy medication. And right here on my computer, I've got Israel using CBD oil. I mean, CBD-enriched medical cannabis for intractable pediatric epilepsy. So we have this being used in Israel for years now. They find that the only problems with it were that the child somnolence, they got tired, fatigue, gastrointestinal, a little bit of irritability to the digestive tract, irritability in terms of mental, leading to withdrawal of cannabis in 5 of the patients. Okay. They said the results of this multi-center study on CBD treatment for intractable epilepsy in a population of children and adolescents are highly promising. Further prospective, well-designed clinical trials using enriched CBD medical cannabis are warranted. And I always laugh. I'm like, well, they're using it because they know it works in Israel.
They must have a very good lobbyist in Israel.
Why don't we just start using it here in the United States if plenty of evidence shows that it's safe and effective? Versus a pharmaceutical industry, a pharmaceutical company. I'd have to look up which one. My thought goes towards, I think it was GlaxoSmithKline. They had an epilepsy medication that caused 5-fold increases in death to children with epilepsy.
But think
than doing nothing.
A 3-year-old with epilepsy, and the doctor says this is your best bet.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's not your best bet.
Misinformed.
And that's where our medical physicians, I'm not mad at them for when they prescribe a medication that if they truly didn't know that was not the best thing, that they truly thought it was the best thing, if they truly, at their level of education and information that they have gained, they thought they were doing best. There can be very sincere people, but they can be sincerely wrong at the same time, especially with the way in which our government agencies, the FDA, CDC, and DEA, are just bashing supplements and natural medicines and then pushing pharmaceuticals. So it's not their fault. So that doctor prescribed the epilepsy medication in the sincere desire to see this child live without epilepsy, without seizures, and no further harm. The child died. That's not the doctor's fault. It's the pharmaceutical industry and the FDA for not doing their job. The pharmaceutical industry lied to the FDA. The FDA doesn't do thorough investigation into their drugs prior to release. That's why a Forbes magazine article from 2008 has a quote from a former FDA representative saying, "We find out drugs are unsafe when the bodies accumulate." That was the exact quote from Forbes magazine, the very last sentence. I'm like, holy cow. They find out drugs. I mean, people are like, oh, it's FDA approved, therefore it's safe. The supplements aren't FDA approved, so we don't know. Yes, there's a problem with that. I'm like, can't we just bring up more moral and ethics into healthcare? But we don't have a lot of that, it seems, these days. It seems like we're lacking in that. Is there a drug for morals?
And me and you could never get FDA approval because we can't afford it.
Yeah. The amount of money it takes for FDA approval is ungodly. I mean, millions of dollars to acquire FDA approval. And nobody can patent something natural, a plant like hemp, okay?
They sure do try to patent the compounds, Marinol, Sativix.
Yep. So they're trying to patent this so they can make it in a chemical laboratory, and then they can own that, and then no one else can create it, no one else can sell it. And then they charge astronomical amounts of money. So they either charge it so high to where people can't get their hands on a safe alternative, or they end up getting and lobbying for insurances to pay for it when somebody could grow the same compound with other beneficial compounds in the whole plant-based oil.
Absolutely. For $300, you can grow your own 1,000 plants next year and have your own medicine. Be a terrible American, not follow capitalism.
I remember you saying that. I was like, that's awesome. I love the way he says that. But I mean, so this drug company lies to the American people. They lie to the FDA. They killed children for profits. They love money more than people's lives.
Oh, absolutely.
It is. The love of money is the root of all evil. The love of money. Money is not. It's the love of money. And if you're willing to withhold data for which this drug is going to kill children, they withheld that. They were found guilty of it. And it killed children. But the drug is still out there. I mean, it's just, and then the FDA puts just a black box warning on it.
Oh, yeah, that'll make
But how many doctors sit there and say, hey, I want you to know that your asthma prevention medicine has a black box warning because it could increase the risk of asthma-related death. I want you to know that, but I do want you to start taking this to prevent asthma attacks. As a parent, what would you say if I was the doctor? If I just told you the truth?
I'm not interested.
Why not? It's going to prevent some of his symptoms of breathing difficulty. Like, he'll have less asthma attacks. That's what the pharmaceutical company says it'll prevent.
Isn't there substantial risk?
Well, the FDA did give it a black box warning because it could cause your child to die from asthma-related death more frequently. We see that now that we're prescribing this drug.
You know how much farther we just went than most physician-patient interviews?
Conversations,
yeah.
Exactly.
So there's cyanide in here, but you said to take it. Okay.
Yes.
Yes, I trust my doctor.
We got about 15 minutes here. Again, I'm Dr. Dale, I'm the Wild Doc. My clinic is Marathon Chiropractic here in Clarksville, Tennessee. My phone number is 931-591-2010. You have a website. Do you have information? Please give that information out. We'll make sure to post it on the Wild Doc's Facebook page as well.
Veteran Grown, the first Tennessee hemp processor. Everything's locally grown, no herbicides, no pesticides. www.veterangrownllc.com.
Excellent. One more time. Tell the people where they can get this wild medicinal.
VeteranGrownLLC.com. Or check out our Facebook page. Tons of reviews, great information.
Nice.
Honest information that's not skewed.
I mean, this is just, I get on the radio, and it seems like you know a little bit of the political end of things. I get on the radio, and I rant and rave, and I tell people, call your Congress member, let them know that you don't want more pharmaceutical drugs. I mean, take the narcotic issue right now going on. Okay, the 21st Century Cures Act is going to place about $1 billion into all 50 states, going to get about $1 billion taxpayer money for to fight the opiate epidemic, heroin and opiate epidemic that's killing 33,000 plus people per year that they admit to. And 1 out of 5 people become addicted to heroin not because of opiates. So 4 out of 5 people, and granted, I've watched plenty of documentaries on this, and they'll have 10, 20 people sitting in a room, and they're like, how many of you started with heroin, or how many of you started because you were prescribed a opiate narcotic pain medication by your doctor? And the entire room raises their hand. Another side thing. Do you know that there's videos, I forget the comedian, he has it on YouTube, it's really hilarious because he goes through this whole opiate epidemic problem, and he plays the video of one of Purdue Pharma's, their testimonies. This lady talks about how it got her to play with her kids again, she got out of pain, it was the miracle drug for her. And that was their testimony. This is how they got people saying, I need that drug. I need to have that life. I need to play with my kids again, but I have too much back pain. I can't do it. So they get on the drugs. Well, now there's an interview with her, but mainstream media didn't talk about it.
That didn't make CNN?
No, it didn't make it. But she is now completely addicted to narcotic pain medications, has been through several drug rehabs, has lost her house, her cars, everything. She's lost everything, even her relationship with her family, because of addiction to that narcotic, for which her testimony was used to get people on that drug. Pharmaceutical industry should now, that should be the flag that they wave when talking about, here's what your life will most likely look like if you take narcotics.
And they're keeping it under wraps. Look at heroin use in Tennessee. Wait till you see heroin use in 5 years.
Yeah. And all the, what's sad is the way in which the drug companies, lobbyists push, what I was getting at there with money is we're going to spend $1 billion, okay, to try and combat an opiate epidemic that was caused by a pharmaceutical industry for which they make several $billion. I think the opiate market is like $3 billion annually. And they're making that kind of money. They were sued one time for all their illegal acts and fraud and the crimes that they committed and the harms that they caused to families and people. They were sued one time, like $600 and some million, and they paid that to the government. It didn't go back to the people they destroyed the lives. They went to our government. And now a taxpayer you see that the issue I'm getting at here? Mm-hmm. Our taxpayer money is going to pay to try and get us out of a problem that was caused by a pharmaceutical industry that is making plenty of profits on that one drug. So if a pharmaceutical industry causes or commits fraud, I feel like all money made from that drug, so the true penalty would be you lose all the money you've ever made from that drug.
Absolutely.
All that goes back to is finding alternatives or helping and correcting the problem that you caused. And that would tell the pharmaceutical industry, stop committing crimes.
Let's back to capitalism. If you take 1/100th of my money for the penalty, it's not really a penalty.
Exactly.
It's a cost of doing business.
I joke around. I'm like, my son wouldn't steal candy bars for example purposes. If my son somehow stole a bunch of candy bars in the future, and then he came home and I found he stole candy bars, and I was like, okay, give me 2 candy bars.
That's a good deal.
For a punishment. He gets the rest of the box. That's what we're doing in the pharmaceutical industry. So with medical marijuana right now, what's going on right now in Tennessee in terms of all the political realm? Let's start with medicinal marijuana. What's happening right now?
Amazing week at the Capitol this week with Republican Representative Dresden and Faison proposing the bill for the 2017 Medical Cannabis Act. Mm-hmm. It'll provide 50 growers throughout the state and 150 dispensaries with only a 5% tax on the cannabis, and we have about 10 or 12 symptoms, illnesses on it right now that would be allowed to have medical cannabis.
Okay.
And everyone, call your legislation. We hear all year, every year, how we should have medical marijuana.
Yeah.
Here's your chance. You have 6 weeks to call your congressmen and senators before this moves forward.
Gotcha.
If you're pro, if you're against,
yeah,
they were elected by you.
Yeah.
Tell them what you want.
What are some of the conditions for which they're saying medical marijuana could be used?
Cancer.
Okay. Cancer pain, I think, is the main thing. That not to treat cancer, but to actually deal with the pain from cancer. Yet the oils have been shown to help combat cancer and kill cancer cells. So it's not the real reason we should be prescribing it. The best benefit, we got to give it by the side, because they never want to say that. They never want to take away from the mental thought in our public and it's sad, the collective ignorance that people don't realize that chemo is not the best thing. They want to make sure that they never do that. I always joke around, I've got ginger root. It's known to kill cancer cells as well, okay? In dilutions to where people could consume it. Now, they say it could be added to enhance chemotherapy. Not that, even though it's proven alone to kill it, so the same thing with marijuana. So
absolutely. HIV, AIDS, Parkinson's, ALS, some serious diseases, illnesses.
Serious neurological. So the alternative is narcotics.
Absolutely. That
are killing 33,000 people a year.
And it was done right. Other states, they set it up where there would be 3 corporations handling all the medical marijuana. You're right back to Big Pharma.
Yep.
So bravo to the Tennessee legislation for putting together such a smart bill.
Is there anybody opposing this that we should focus in on to try and let them know that we don't wish that they would oppose it?
Republican Representative Andy Holt.
Okay.
He would love to hear your thoughts.
Why is Representative Andy Holt, why is he opposed to this legislation?
His evangelical Christian beliefs says that he could never allow for people to just have another drug to do.
What we should probably do, I don't know if Anthony, you could look it up really quick on your phone there. We should definitely figure out if Andy Holt has ever said yes to a pharmaceutical industry's lobbying efforts. Did he vote towards the 21st Century Cures Act that literally gives an open door to the pharmaceutical industry and a handout to them?
I would love to see it.
If he's passed any legislation for Big Pharma, folks, if his evangelical Christian beliefs are true, and not, he could be a Christian, he desire that, he may not understand the Bible in terms of pharmakeia. Pharmakeia is the original Greek text, okay? Pharmakeia is the translation. I've done a lot of studies in this, and I've prayed several times to the Lord, show me where I'm wrong if the pharmaceutical industry is not the deceiver of end of times, okay? In the end of times, all nations will be deceived by their pharmakeia, by their witchcraft. Now, a lot of people in America, or Christians, want to say, well, witchcraft is the abuse and the wrongful use and those things. Well, when you're killing children for profits, that's a wrongful use. I could easily say that. But the most likely the best translation in the English language is the use of drugs. That's it. The use of drugs. Okay? And he said everything he's given us here on earth, things that grow natural, are good, and we can use them for good. Okay? He didn't say everything that man makes that alters your brain. And he really talks a lot about, God talks about the drugs that separate our mind from reality. And that is because Christ did not want to take the wine mixed with, it says myrrh, but myrrh was to dilute and kind of cover up the bitter taste of gall, a basic narcotic back then, so a pain medication. So he did not want to dull his senses, because what Christ wanted to do on the cross was to be able to communicate and live out and experience it says, drink the full cup that my Father's given me. So he wanted that. And I'm not saying everybody needs to just suffer in pain, but what I'm saying here is there are so many biblical references to the pharmaceutical industry being the end of times deceiver. And what nation is deceiving all? In China, they bought prostitutes, and they're doing this in America for doctors, and that's the sexual immoralities, the thefts, the murders, the lies. They've done all these crimes, all these sins, and it's referencing pharmakeia in the biblical text and the scripture talking about the 4 sins that they would not repent for. Well, until the pharmaceutical industry stops doing that, they haven't repented. So there's far more this evangelical, this representative, if he truly believes that his Christian beliefs would not allow him to say okay to marijuana, something God's created. Purely God created that. Man
hasn't
didn't.
Been altered.
Yeah. Now, altered, now there is the hybridized, basically, not genetically modifying it, but what they did, sadly, and this is the tendency of people, is to say, oh, we want to make it more mind-altering. Well, they used to grow it with higher concentrations of CBD, and then they went towards strains that could go more THC. So we went away from the beneficial towards more of the psychedelic, psychoactive traits of it. But now there's a shift there in growers to go back towards the CBD because of the massive medicinal and improvements in life that it can give somebody.
And it's easy to reverse,
Excellent. So, I always ask why so many Christians believe with blind faith that a pharmaceutical industry is out for their best interest, that the drug their doctor is giving them is the best thing they can ever take, that the vaccine they're giving their child, that they don't need to question it because our cultural norm says, hey, this is what you do. Roll your sleeve up, stand in line, and take your vaccine.
The ethics that doctors have, right?
Yep. Look at all the scripture. I'm at like a loss here to think that I hope and pray that he's truly believes in his Christian belief that he needs to be against something God created. But if you look at the scriptures and look at pharmakeia, just look at the symbol of medicine sometimes. What's the symbol of medicine?
Isn't it a snake?
It's a serpent wrapped around a staff.
Right?
It was supposed to be impaled. Noah, yes, he held that up, because I had somebody say, well, Noah held it up, and it healed people. Well, it wasn't that. If you look back to the biblical references there of what that truly was, it says it was worthless at best, but mischievous oftentimes.
And regardless,
the symbol of a serpent.
Of your religious belief.
Yeah.
You have a 4-year-old that has 200 seizures a day. What religion or belief would say that child should keep suffering?
Yep. I agree. Definitely not the Christian.
Definitely not the Christian faith.
No. And they definitely wouldn't say, hey, hand that child over, now they get to be a test dummy for the pharmaceutical industry, for the pharmaceutical companies when they want to try and make their next epilepsy medication, for which their last one they lied and killed 5 times more children. I just have to reiterate that stuff all the time. I don't know why. Just got to talk about it. And as we're wrapping up, we got about a minute left. Give your information out to the people.
Andrew Fox. You can give us a call anytime, 931-302-2241. You can check us out on Facebook, Veteran Grown, or www.veterangrownllc.com. Call Dr. Dell. He can help find me.
There we go. If you want to call my office, 931-591-2010. I'm the Wild Doc. We're wrapping up here. This show is really just about, what's going on in our nation right now in terms of our healthcare industry and our government, the kind of combination there. We've got to speak out, people. We have to call our Congress members, our representatives, applaud the ones that are attempting to pass this legislation in terms of medical marijuana to give somebody a safer alternative to narcotics and medications that are killing thousands of people every single year. We need safer alternatives, and we need ones that people can grow themselves and things that God originally made and created here on earth for us. So call your representative, applaud the ones that are going for it. And Andy, and I'm not mad at him. I don't know where his true moral and ethical standing is right now, if he believes it's unethical and against Christian belief. But if he's ever voted for a pharmaceutical drug or to push and force the vaccine, then he's definitely gone outside his Christian faith, for sure. So make sure that you let him know that we need the American people to have independence, not dependence on medications. Thank you.
Great show today, Doc. Very informative. Join us again next Saturday morning for True Health Talk with the Wild Doc. We'll be here at 9 a.m. straight up. Stand by. The Saturday Sports Splash is coming up next.
I got a bad case of loving you. No pill's gonna cure my ill. I got a bad case of loving you.
I will say this. WJZM Radio, Clarksville, Tennessee.
How many times have you thought to yourself that something sounded too good to be true? The last time you bought a used vehicle at a great deal, did you think this might be the case? The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration conducted research that discovered more than 450,000 vehicles are sold each year with false odometer readings, costing American car buyers more than $1 billion annually. Additional research indicates that in Tennessee alone, there are roughly 10,000 vehicles on Tennessee roadways with altered odometers, costing Tennessee consumers over $38 million. The Tennessee Highway Patrol's Criminal Investigation Division is dedicated to helping Tennesseans if they discover they have been a victim of odometer fraud. For more information, contact your local THP district office. Don't be a victim. Think before you buy. This message is brought to you by the Tennessee Highway Patrol's Auto Theft Unit.
If you want to know what's going on in Clarksville, listen to WJZM Radio and worldwide at WJZM.com. WJZM is Clarksville's most dependable radio station for local news and current events.
Looking to catch the big game with a group of friends? Do it O'Neill style. Want to see a great live band rock the stage? Do it O'Neill style. Hungry for a great meal or just thirsty for an icy cold draft beer? Get them O'Neill style at O'Neill's Bar and Grill, a genuinely great American sports bar. They've got wall-to-wall TVs, huge selections behind the bar, and a menu that obliterates the average pub fare. Clarksville's best times take place at O'Neill's Bar and Grill, located at 1979 Madison Street in Midtown.
Hey, do you have a sweet tooth? Aren't you just craving the perfect dessert? Well, stop daydreaming and head over to Bee's Cheesecakes, where everything is homemade and the flavors are unending. If you can dream it, they can cheesecake it at Bee's. With their rotating custom menu featuring options like Boston cream, Beach Haven blackberry, and maple candied bacon, they've got something just for you at Bee's Cheesecakes on the corner of College Street and Riverside Drive, making life sweeter one bite at a time.
Since 1941, serving the public interest. WJZM Radio, Clarksville, Tennessee.
Fans, it's time to suit up and dive right in. to the Saturday Sports Splash, the show that's always making waves. Now, here's your host, Justin Swallows.
Good Saturday morning to you, sports fans, and welcome on into the Splash. We've got plenty to talk about today and some great guests lined up for you. Andrew Buckholt's supposed to join us this morning from Yahoo Sports and AwfulAnnouncing.com to talk about just a shocking story out of Wake Forest University. They had a radio analyst leaking information to opposing teams, and it seems like the story looks like it's been going on for several years now, been happening since the start of the 2014 season. It could be a big reason why that football program has struggled. It is sure tough to play the game, especially when your opponent knows what's going on the other side. So it's an interesting story, and we'll dive into it with Andrew Buckholtz from Yahoo Sports and AwfulAnnouncing.com later on in the show. We're going to talk a little Austin Peay basketball today. Governor's assistant coach Julian Terrell set to join us later on. We'll talk about the Govs. They've really been struggling as of late, and we may be the jinx. So we talked with Coach Jay Bowen here on our show a couple of weeks ago about the defensive emphasis that program has and that they have had ever since Coach Dave Luce took over at the P. The Govs struggling defensively ever since we talked about that. We had that conversation a couple of weeks ago. Austin Peay has struggled mightily. They're giving up 90-plus points per game through their last 4 contests. It's been a major issue. Austin Peay 1-4 since we had that conversation with Coach Bowen, and we'll check back in with the Governor's coaching staff today. Austin Peay taking on Evansville tonight at 7 over at the Dunn Center. If you don't have a ticket,